Welcome back to In the Mountains. Here I am, I'm back on the log splitter. Got some firewood to process. This is that old growth maple I got. It's a big leaf. This is a pretty knotty piece, as you can see. So I'm being careful when I'm working with this maple because some of these knots can really come back at you. So you gotta pay attention to where your body and your limbs are when you're splitting this maple, because when you're busting these knots open, well, they can actually come right back at you. Hit you in the body, hit you in the face. So you gotta do this with care, and you gotta pay attention to where your knots are running. You really gotta ease into this and just pay attention to the wood and what you're doing. Because it is possible to hurt yourself on a log splitter with all that hydraulic power. Here I got a really nice piece of fir. I've actually sliced this with my chainsaw. And compared to the maple, this stuff just splits right open. It's kind of a breeze. So you'll see my strategy in processing this. I'm really just kind of taking slices off it. So I'll take this half of a round and I'm just going to rotate it. Flip it there. I'll take a little triangle slice off with the log splitter, and that'll be a nice piece. And I'll just flip it over and rotate it, kind of minimizing the amount of movement I have to actually handle the piece of wood. So it makes the process just a little bit easier when you cut down on the amount of handling you do with your firewood. The idea is to work smarter and not harder. Here's a smaller piece of fir. Definitely has some knots. Sometimes these fir knots can be a little tough too. But compared to the maple, it should be relatively easy split. So that cracked open there. I'm just going to rotate it again, just to make it so I don't really have to lift it. Then I'll come at it again, it'll split relatively easy. Alright, I'm going to grab a big piece of maple here. It doesn't look like it has too many knots, so that first initial split should go relatively easy. Notice how I have that on the deck and I'm using the actual hydraulic power to push it against the edge of the deck. And there it splits open really easy. And the next piece splits really easy. Now watch, I'm just going to rotate this. I'm just rotating it. And I'm just splitting it open. I'm not going all the way through. Again, just to minimize the amount of movement of handling this heavy round, because it is a heavy round. It's not completely bone dry. It was sitting out a little while. It definitely is dry enough to burn, but it's not seasoned. And I rotate it again, and there's my next split. So I'm kind of holding this together. I could peel off some of those pieces, but they aren't the size that I want. So I'm just going to bust up smaller pieces. There you go. You see some of them fell down there. Those are pretty good size. There's a little piece there. And this one's pretty much in the bag. Not that bad of a round compared to some of the other pieces of maple that I have been splitting. This one doesn't have too many knots. It's the knots that really make it a challenge to split this firewood. Just imagine if you were swinging an axe or a maul at this, how much effort and energy one would exert. Here's another slice of fir. This is an older tree, so the grain on it is a little bit looser, which actually makes it more of a breeze to split open. This stuff, I did a test burn of it. It actually burns really nice, which for getting firewood permit wood from the forest, you know you're lucky when you get something you can burn right away. Usually you have to let it season. This could still season a little bit more, but I've tested it out. It burns hot. So here's another piece of fir. Notice how I am splitting this. I'm just taking little slices off of that big round. So just on that one chunk there, you can see about 5 pieces of firewood, usable firewood. And in that size, it should season a little bit quicker. The smaller the wood, the faster it can dry. A lot of that's in the stack too. Alright, this is a piece of that maple that looks like it's got a lot of knots in it, so let's see how this goes. Surprisingly, that split open right away really easily for that first piece. So that wasn't the largest round ever, and it was really easy just to split that into 4 pieces. And there you go. Another round of maple. This one does have some knots. So right here, I just want to make sure that my round is evenly lined up on the deck so that wedge doesn't go off kilter. Doing so can cause it to really create pressure points and cause the wood to fly in all different directions. So one more pass with the wedge here, and I should have 4 nice pieces of firewood. You see them there. With minimal effort, I really just rotated that round, and I didn't have to lift it up and down on the deck to do so. Here's another nice chunk of that fir. It's just really beautiful wood. Just cracking it, flipping it, making sure there's not a bunch of big rocks on there just to get in the machinery and get in the way of things. And just one crack of the wedge and it splits open. I really don't need to push that wedge all the way to the end to go all the way through it. It just splits open and cracks, and it's good to go. Here I've got a piece of hemlock. Looks like it's got a few knots in it. It's not as dry as the other rounds I've been splitting today. Yeah, this round just splits really easy too. Just like a lot of the other ones. Just rotating it. That's all you gotta do. And you'll have your pieces that are nice, just the right size you want them. Now this fir is just so nice. I'm debating on whether to go back and get some more of it. There were a few more pieces I could probably go saw off. It's just, the grain is right. It's seasoned a little bit. Now it's been getting, those logs that are still out there, probably getting some rain on them, but still, the overall heart of the wood is relatively dry, and it just has this great aroma to it, and it burns so nicely in the wood stove. So on this split I have a round that has 3 pieces that are pretty wide. So actually I just took the wedge and went in between them. So I'm bringing another relatively fresh piece of hemlock, throwing it on the deck. Gonna let the wedge push the round against the side there. And this really is a perfect example to show you how I roll the round. It got stuck there. So the nice thing about that is it has a bar there that can separate it. If I bring that all the way back, it'll unstick that wedge from the round. So I just gave that a little rotation. I'm going to split that open. Rotate another turn. Like it's a And as you can see, I have some really nice slices of firewood there, and all I did was rotate that round. What are some of your favorite techniques for splitting firewood? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks again for joining me on In the Mountains. If you like this video, please hit that like button and consider subscribing.